Hello, once again, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. A podcast all about Moon Knight, with reviews and just general banter between two people on the internet, which is pretty unheard of. I have one of the first two, Connor.
And I'm the other host, Ray. And this episode, we are looking at the latest run again of Max Bemis and Jacen Burrows. This time it's Volume 9, Issue 192, Crazy Runs in the Family, Part 5. Plus a lot of feedback and also other bits of news in general. So please grab your issue, sit back, relax, and get your Khonshu on.
It is a fantastic discussion coming. This is, once again, quite an issue coming up. I apologise for my absence for the past 2 weeks, but it is good to be back in the chair recording. Just some stuff going on. Sometimes you can't control, although maybe I could have controlled being sick. It's tough. But regardless, we're here. We're in the now. Definitely good to be back. And Ray, outside of absolutely killing it with hosting a podcast by yourself, and then last week's fantastic 3-hour behemoth with Chris.
A lot of fun.
Which I'm very sad to have missed. How you been?
Yeah, been pretty good, actually. Just, the as Chris would put it, our alter egos, the other side of life. Reality is just the daily grind, but looking forward to cracking into this issue on this episode. We've got the latest issue by Max Bemis and Jacen Burrows, and I forgot to mention in the intro, we have again a special guest narrator for the bare bones, and he's a fellow Loony. So we've now had a couple of Loonies come on the show, and Corey. So he's going to give us that, and I'm looking forward to that. But nothing special in life, Connor. It's just been plodding along. Glad to hear that you're feeling better as well, and always glad to have you back as well. It's we've missed you the last 2 episodes, but looking forward to reviewing this comic book with you.
It is. Lost my train of thought. Just looking at this fantastic cover, getting ready to review it. I've got to admit, things have been pretty much the same for me. I've been a bit away, but I've been keeping up. We've had some, as you know, hopefully, listening to this and then jumping across to some other podcasts. We got the Damnation cross-podcast review with ourselves, Sons of the Dragon, Defenders TV podcast, and Inner Demons. I've caught up. I've read the Damnation issue 1 and the Doctor Strange issue, which you can find reviews on for the first issue of Damnation at Sons of the Dragon, and the latest Doctor Strange issue at Defenders TV podcast. And just want to catch up by saying that event is amazing.
Definitely.
It's going fantastically. Such a strong little start, and I hope, and we have ourselves reviewing the second issue next week, so I hope we do it just as much justice.
Oh, look, it is a really good, it's really a really tight opening, I think, to the event, Damnation. The hosts over at Sons of the Dragon did a really good job opening up. It's always a bit hard opening up with the first issue because it's basically a setup issue, isn't it? And I think there were, maybe no surprises there that we didn't see, our namesake characters in there just yet because we're kind of establishing it. What I found interesting, Connor, was that we got a bit more of the usual Avengers in there, with Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Thor, and with the Defenders TV podcast review of the Doctor Strange tie-in, which was a very solid issue as well for a tie-in. We had a bit more of a role there from Jane Foster Thor, which I didn't really pick. Did you see any of these little twists and turns coming?
Yeah, not at all. I thought the Avengers would just be gone. I thought it'd be really sort of tight and concise, but it's nice. It makes more sense for the universe.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Just,
It was I was really impressed. I just listened yesterday to the Doctor Strange issue 386 review by the Defenders TV podcast, and it was really well done by Derek and John. It was I found it a really nice tale as well, a very classic tale of someone versus basically the devil, and it it had its Donny Cates and Marvel humour in there as well. So it was quite enjoyable. And of course, Bats. How can we not talk about Bats? He seems to be a bit of a shining character so far in Damnation. So hopefully he hangs around and has more of a regular presence. But yeah, we're looking forward to Damnation 2. So that will be in our next episode. We will also have a guest on the show as well. Our second, I guess, live guest, and it's a big one. We've got our man on the streets, Tommy, who usually does a lot of research for us and a lot of writing for us. Connor, he's going to be on the show. How cool is that?
Whoa!
Yeah. So,
getting ready to replace me.
No, not at all. But his people are speaking to our people, and it should be fun to have a yarn with Tommy on Damnation 2. Having said that, I guess, Connor, on the news front, before we get into our Over the Moon review, not much has happened, I guess. If you don't count, I guess, the Damnation event, which, let's face it, Moon Knight had a very small, albeit one panel of him on there. There's not much. Oh, actually, I haven't got this in the notes here, Connor, but one of the other bits of news, there was and I released it in the in our Facebook group. There is a little preview of Damnation 2, which is the issue that we'll be reviewing next episode.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'll put that in the group there. There are just a couple of pages.
Oh, wait, no, I did see that.
Yeah. So we did see a little bit more of Moon Knight there. No spoilers, but it's just pretty much a setup again. One of our contacts from Twitter tweeted us with that, so I thought I'd just chuck that in there. But, of course, if you don't want to be spoiled, by all means, we won't do that just yet as well. Just be sure to pick up your issue. So aside from that... Yeah. Sorry, Connor.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's next week, and it's nice to be kicking off our review with the start of the new Midnight Suns, which is pretty exciting for our task of taking on issue 2.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting. I'm not only looking forward to all the characters like Iron Fist, Moon Knight, Blade, and Ghost Rider, but there are a couple of other ones there that look really cool as well, like Man-Thing, Elsa Bloodstone, and Brother Voodoo, Jericho Drum. That'll be pretty cool because they haven't been used that often, and I absolutely love Elsa Bloodstone. I think she did really well in Next Wave, and in the Secret Wars there was a limited series of her in Marvel Zombies. She's just fantastic, and and Man-Thing's pretty cool as well. So, Damnation 2, cannot wait next week. Other than that, for news, there's just something that I pulled up. I pulled up a little minnow from the water with a little bit of a baited hook, and I only caught this little fella. It's just an article of 10 comics that you have to read, or 10 comics to read this week. And
you have to read it, guys, or get out of the podcast. I'm telling you now. That's it.
Yeah, and I kind of say this, a little cringeworthy, but basically Moon Knight 192, which is the issue that we'll review this episode, it was on that list. If you look at the article, there's really absolutely nothing it tells you about the issue, other than one of the journalists or one of the writers has picked it and just thrown it in there. So. Apart from the 2-line synopsis that comes with, I guess, when it was released, it was just mentioned as one of the top 10. So, I guess there you go. But nothing really much to glean from that article there. We'll put that in the show notes. You can read it at your leisure, but there's really not much there. It's got some actually interesting other issues there, Connor. What really caught my eye, and I'm not a DC fella, was is it Mira? The Aquaman's. Yeah, she's got a comic series coming out as well, which I guess I do like Namor, so I guess you got to check out the DC versions, right? Any other issues here that may have interested you, Connor?
I am. Thanos has always been Thanos. It's always been amazing. So Saga, just two of Thanos is just absolutely just so much fun. It's just kind of dark, a bit edgy, but it's still got that Kate's touch and that Marvel magic of just being full of wit.
Yes.
A bit of dry humor. Saga's always great. All New Wolverine is like my favorite X book at the moment.
Okay.
Which is super good.
How are you finding Exo Man of War issue 12 is on this one? Are you still following that on Valiant Comics?
No, it became a. I dropped it for a bit. I think I'm just going to catch up and trade because I think I want to pick up the latest 2 issues because I think he's returned to Earth now. But
yes,
the stuff in space just sort of kind of went nowhere for me. So I think I'll go back, grab the latest 2 issues, and then get ready for Harbinger Wars 2. Yeah, coming up big time.
That's a good idea. It kind of did. It did plateau a little. I found his jaunts in space, but looking forward to him coming back to Earth as well. So that's something to look forward to. Look, there are other ones here. Not really. There's Action Comics 998. Look, I'm waiting for the Action Comics 1000. I guess that's getting a lot of generating a lot of interest at the moment. But yeah, it's not exactly Moon Knight, is it? So, no, I mean, look, hey, Superman's great. We'll catch up, but I'm not sure if I think I'll just wait for issue 1000. That'll be pretty cool. All right, well, with that, sorry bit of news there, Loonies.
I'm very glad we have a new issue coming out, whether it's Moon Knight or Damnation, or when we'll be covering like the Scarlet Spider tie-ins of all things. It's just something to keep us in a bit of a dry spell.
Yeah, it's keeping us busy. And let's not forget as well, we've got to pin this to our boards as well. Daredevil 600, where Moon Knight, because it wasn't that long ago. I read 599, and I think Rebecca showed us as well that last splash page of a lot of the street level characters. You okay there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you fell off your chair or something. So Moon Knight will be, we hope to be, in a lot of the pages of Daredevil 600. So we've got a fair few things lined up for Moon Knight, so that's pretty cool. Look, before we drag this out any further, let's go over the moon. All right, we are back with Over the Moon here, and in this episode we are, as mentioned, looking at Moon Knight Volume 9, Issue 192, Crazy Runs in the Family, Part 5. Very exciting. It's the second last part of this first arc for Moon Knight's latest series, and we're very happy to have with us Corey Hardiman put up his hand. I threw it out there again in the Facebook community. I said, look, anyone else keen on reading out some bare bones? It's really cool. I think it's I find important for our community, the Moon Knight community, is that we kind of, I don't know, involve anyone who wants to be involved with the stuff. So totally open for anyone who's keen on coming onto the show. And Corey put up his hand. He said, "Yep, I'll take this one." So we've got Corey. He's from Nova Scotia in Canada, and we'll give a bit more of a shout out later on in our Spectacle. But Corey is actually a creator himself. He has his own title. He's working on a novel based on his character Sister Mercy. And anyway, without further ado, I'll throw it over to Corey to give us the bare bones.
Moon Knight Volume 9, Issue 192, Crazy Runs in the Family, Part 5. Released February 2018. Writer Max Bemis. Artist Jacen Burrows. Inks Guillermo Ortego. Colors Matt Lopez. Letterer VC's Corey Petit. Editor Jake Thomas. In Mark's apartment, the visage of an undead Frenchie chats with Mark at the kitchen table whilst Deidre plays with her toys. The two chat about the hows and whys of Mark seeing Frenchie now as a zombie, and it's Mark who recalls the waking nightmare which in fact occurred during the Wilmere and Smallwood run. Frenchie's understanding of Mark's fantasy, of seeing his best friend die, and how it is a coping mechanism of Mark's disorder, and it is from this that Mark feels a sense of relief. As father and daughter discuss playtime against saving Mum, a brick from outside shatters their inner peace. It is a small army of criminals, the very same pack of criminals which had found a common enemy in Moon Knight, led by Bushman and the Truth. They coax Mark to come down and engage with them, with an incentive being the elderly woman held hostage from the front desk of Mark's apartment. With no choice but to comply, Moon Knight dons his costume and is taken in by the unruly crew. Bushman and the Truth's intent is for Moon Knight to accompany them on a boat, headed for the villain's new home, which fortuitously happens to be where Marlene is. It is this very fact which convinces Moon Knight against bludgeoning the room full of people, and to follow Bushman's lead onto the awaiting vessel. Amidst a raging storm, the ship carrying Moon Knight, Bushman, the Truth, and the others rocks precariously against the mighty waves which lash at the bow. Moon Knight is bound against one of the masts and is at the mercy of Bushman's sadism. Not wanting to be merely a victim of the psychotic villain, Moon Knight takes the initiative and attacks Bushman. In a show of remarkable skill and ingenuity, Moon Knight frees himself from the mast and proceeds to take on every single thug on board with startling results. The dozen crew members are left either unconscious or overboard as Moon Knight's skill makes short work of them. Bushman lunges at Moon Knight in one final attempt, but Moon Knight is at the ready and without remorse. He slices two of Bushman's fingers off with a razor-sharp crescent dart. Moon Knight forces one of the beaten crew to show him around the ship, and it's not long before he uncovers a large group of civilians in the belly of the beast. They seem to be willing participants to migrate to the island towards which they are headed, and of which Moon Knight is left more perplexed. A quick chat with the Truth reveals to Mark that his hope for a better world is the most tragic form of disassociation. Has Mark's motivation to do good been a mere willingness to ignore the blood on his hands? With this thought, they arrive on the island. Moon Knight is greeted by the Sun King on his island Ra, a tropical and bustling place contrasted with island huts and armed militia. It is Sun King's intention to build a populace of people disgruntled by society and to form a nation that will upheave the world. Before that, Sun King wishes for Moon Knight to partake in a ritual which he hopes will elucidate Moon Knight into his true calling. Later that evening, Mark and the Sun King both drink a concoction in the hope that it will free their minds. In their affected state, they meet Amon-Ra, Khonshu, and all of Mark's identities. Ra shows Khonshu and Mark the flip side of heroism. What is shown are the greater consequences and the moral ambiguities that present themselves when taking on heroic action. Ra surmises that it's pain, neglect, and tragedy which form prophets and saviors, and with this, he sets Khonshu aflame. Mark comes out of his trance, and as the naked flames lick higher into the night sky before him, Mark concludes that Ra was right. Thank you. I'm Corey Hardiman. Check out Sister Mercy at Facebook and also on whitefirecomics.com. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Corey, for the bare bones to this, the latest issue of Max Bemis and Jacen Burrows' Moon Knight 192. Connor, I guess first impressions, what did you think of this issue?
It certainly pulled in many more directions than I was thinking we were going to from reading that preview, which was a surprise and a delight, admittedly. Mm-hmm. I think it was very cool. Went some very sort of, let's just say, not boring and uncliched directions. I think what's being done, I think it sticks with a lot of what I've said about this run before, that I like what it's doing, and I like, and I certainly enjoyed this issue, but there are just certain things that just haven't been perfected when it comes to the writing. So I think it's a mixed bag, but by the end of it, I was still, mixed bag's usually a bit more in the middle. I think it definitely had its problems, but I still walked away from this issue satisfied and, definitely wanting that next issue really soon.
Yeah, I enjoy this issue. I thought this was pretty cool. It had a good pacing to it. It's kind of like it shot out of there, and it was quite cinematic. There was a lot of action pieces, and a few little things fell off on the sides as it kind of veered towards its goal, which were, to me, I thought, which were noticeable. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable, and again, I do like my action, and there was plenty of it here, and I love the way Burrows depicts the fight scenes for Moon Knight.
Oh yeah,
it's so well done, and it really gives you that kind of street level kind of grittiness, which is really cool. It was good. It had a few things here and there that we can pick upon, but let's get into it then. Our aspects, Connor. How about you? First one.
First one.
Mm-hmm.
Where shall I start? Yes, I suppose I'll start at the start of the issue with probably one of the big follow-ups from the cliffhanger of last issue. We see Frenchie's return. They sort of sit down. Mark's, still picturing this horrifying, zombified version of Frenchie, but it was just a nice little 2-page conversation between them about Mark's sort of, connection to Frenchie and
yes.
And just sort of everything that led to sort of almost, reforming their friendship for the status quo going forward. It's, I think I very much liked what it was doing, but I think, this is sort of one of the things. I don't think all of the dialogue in these 2 pages quite landed. They definitely got the intention across, and it's a bit weird kind of shoved into this massive battle, especially since he has nothing else to do in this issue. But I hope, my biggest hope, and why I didn't sort of bring up the solicitations that you guys talked about last week earlier, just sort of being away, that I hope this is just sort of a quick little 2-page thing setting up Frenchie's sort of further involvement when we see the more one-shot type stories after the next issue.
Yeah, this was interesting. So what's your take on Frenchie here? Is he really there, or because there were 2 ways that I could have seen it happen, and the first, I'll tell you the first one. When I first read it, I had the impression that so he came in, and Mark's seeing Frenchie as a zombie, right? But he's not really. Obviously, it's Mark's psyche that is forming this look on Frenchie's face, or the vision of Frenchie. But essentially, Frenchie is there. He did actually come over to look after Beatrice, but we just see him as a bit of a zombie because we see it through the eyes of Mark. And as I read it to the second page as well, you see him strip off his zombie kind of look. And, there's a bit of humour here. Don't stand on Frenchie's skin, Mark's saying to Beatrice. But I thought essentially he's there, right? The second interpretation is that I guess he's not there at all. Because I think it's well kind of done in that Beatrice never really engages in Frenchie, and it's almost kind of like a Sixth Sense thing, It kind of looks like he's in the room, but maybe he isn't. What's your take on it?
I definitely saw him as there because I feel like, totally up for interpretation. If I'm wrong, I'm fairly to accept I'm wrong with whatever Bemis is cooking up, but I definitely think he was there.
Yeah.
It was an important conversation and have is the sort of very physical and mental of taking off the skin, but it makes sense for him to actually be there to look after
Beatrice.
Beatrice.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot her name. I'm sorry.
But yeah, the thing that kind of gets me though when I was rereading it again was that Frenchie's talking about Mark's adventures, and it's cited in the editor's notes. It was a Lemire and Smallwood run, and he says to Mark, if I had seen you get murdered in a waking nightmare of insane asylums and Egyptian gods, you saw it, you felt it, you'd be seeing this. He's saying, I don't blame you for seeing this because, you saw your friend get murdered. Now, if Frenchie, how does the real Frenchie know that? You know what I mean? If this the only thing I can think of is that this Frenchie is a total figment of Mark's imagination, and that's why he's kind of, privy to the fact that, Mark is seeing him as a zombie because Mark had gone through an ordeal in the Lemire Smallwood run. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, exactly like you, I thought he was there. And the other thing as well, which kind of gets me a little, is Frenchie's accent. It's not there, basically. Ever since we've seen Frenchie from the beginning, he's had a very heavy French accent. And we don't get it at all here.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I say as well. I think there was a bit of passage of time from the last issue to this one, from appearing at the door to sitting down and having their coffee to sort of explain what happened and why Mark's picturing him like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's more just Bemis's thing with the accent, just because it can be sort of ridiculous, and there's It's kind of like the Rogue and Gambit thing of their accents sort of really always stick out, but it also doesn't make sense because of how varied, the actual cast of the Marvel Universe is, yet for some reason they're the only ones with accents when there's plenty of other people from, their point of origin.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's I don't know. I kind of miss it. I kind of like Lemire's take of it, like being sort of more subtle but still there. But I don't know. I'm holding on to the past.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like, when I read it, it was flagged with me. The first thing the first couple of pages, I did think while I was reading it, he hasn't got the accent. But it didn't, affect me throughout the rest of the issue. But it was noticeable enough to actually kind of, be aware of it. So, I don't know. That was just a small little thing. But, yeah, Frenchie's return is pretty cool. One of your first aspects. I'm going to jump a little. My aspect, one of the big things in this issue was the Isle of Ra. I thought that was pretty cool to actually see it, and to actually get a better sense of what the Sun King and Bushman and the Truth are trying to do. And it is a bit of a maniacal plan, isn't it? What the Sun King wants to do is basically create a headquarters, but create, I guess, a little nation or community that will eventually kind of be the hub that will see the rest of the world crumble. So you see a mix of really weird, nice contrast of beaches and sand and straw huts, but then you see guys walking around in military gear and in with machine guns, and then you also see on the boat a group of people that have volunteered, I guess, and maybe these people are running away from something, or maybe they're facing a lot of hardships, and I can imagine they're the sort of people that Sun King would have targeted, quite impressionable people, and they've decided to give this a go. So they it doesn't look like they've got the best the best conditions in the boat to get over to the island, but we have to remember that it's from their own free will that they want to go over there. So Sun King is trying to build up an army and a nation to follow through with his plans. What did you think, Connor, of such a different... Straight away we're getting such a different environment for Moon Knight to play in, and we get a sense of that more in the cover for next issue as well when he's in the jungle. But it's something quite different from Bemis. What do you make of it?
I definitely agree. I think it's just sort of a different playground, and I just always sort of like having that bit of change. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out next issue, but I suppose it's just such an interesting idea. I like that the god of chaos would be starting his own army to someone to inflict his ideology on, like that. I think that makes a lot of sense for a character like the Sun King and Ra who's standing over him. And it's nice that it connects to the past, as can't remember who it might have been, Tommy or someone who pointed out its connection to the island we saw in Mark Spector Moon Knight, which is pretty cool.
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes.
I think.
Sorry, yeah, Burunda, I think was what. Yeah, Tommy had dug up that piece of information. Burunda was the island, or was the country that Bushmen had overtaken, basically, and I think this island is just off it, apparently. So,
yeah. Which is awesome. I think, yeah, like I really like this playground. I think it's going to lead to a lot of fun action. I really love the boat scene, which is sort of my next aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's just good setup. Admittedly, I think it just sort of runs into the problem of this actually only being a 6-issue arc. I kind of wish this story wasn't, maybe had those one-shots spliced in between and just sort of more pulled out. I think we could have seen more of the Sun King's character and his change from the first issue to now. Just seems like we're just missing a bit in terms of his character, condensed into 5 issues, and, we sort of have this playground for the next issue where there's going to be the big battle, and then we know by issue 7 of this run, issue 194 will have left it again, and this storyline behind. Maybe the Sun King will still be around, but I don't know. It just feels it's just like so many good ideas that I wish were expanded and we got to see more of the character, but it still makes sense and still just a good idea.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is from Marvel and the editors, and how much of that is from the writer. Because just today I was reading the latest, I think it was issue 170 of Black Panther. I still collect that on digital, and that's great. And Ta-Nehisi Coates has no problem with it's up to part 11, so I think he's going to maybe wrap it up in part 12. But he's got no problems with having a larger arc, a longer arc, and it's all the better for it, and I totally agree with you with this. I'd like to see a lot more components of this story fleshed out a bit more as well. It's still cool as well. I'm looking forward to the part 6, but I can see so much more potential of actually, maybe Moon Knight being on the island for a bit longer and seeing how that plays out. And the relationship between the Truth and the Sun King and Bushman. There's a lot of stuff here that I don't think they can wrap up in the last issue. So I wonder, if Ta-Nehisi Coates was saying, look, I've got this story and it's not going to fit in 6 parts. I'm going to make it 12, and they said okay. Or if Marvel or the editors were like, let's just try and keep it 6 at most for trades. But having said that, if it is trade worthy, then just have 2 trades, parts 1 to 6 and parts 7 to 12. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly he maybe feared it being cancelled at 6 and sort of wanted to get something maybe, or who really knows? And this complaint of mine doesn't come from a place of anger. It's just I enjoy this story, and because I enjoy it, it's just a bit disappointing. Only from a place of love and this is so good. I want it to be longer and it to feel proper. I feel this could easily, with a bit of splicing, a bit of change up, could have easily been the 12-issue arc we wanted, or as you said.
Yeah, for sure. How about your next aspect, Connor, which you mentioned involved the boat?
Yes, just sort of the fun, and we can just use this aspect, talk about how great Burrows and Ortega. Yeah. The battle scene on the boat, Bushman being an idiot, trying to get one up on Mark and getting thumped down, and we just see a great, just a full-on, absolutely incredible, just an amazing fight scene from 2-panel spreads to just everything. Just here from an art perspective was amazing. I think from the deep inks and the colors, I love the blue tinge of the water and that sort of effect on the art. Then we see that very classic, sort of orange background that works so well with Ortega's inks, just to give it that bit of a darker edge to all the characters upon that background. Burrows going absolutely mental with each hit, and we get that, we have 1, 2, 5 pages dedicated to just all-out warfare and fingers being cut off and, breaking knees and faces, and it was just the violent side of me in all of us. Satisfying. We come back to Moon Knight for the, for being a bit edgy, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And what action scenes here. This is fantastic. Let's go through it. As you mentioned, the blue tinge of the sea and the storm, which is really great. And then the first sense of the action you get is, I think this is brilliant, of how Mark's tied to the mast, and so he bites Bushman's hand, and that drops the knife, and Moon Knight manages to catch the knife with his hand. At the same time, he bites into Bushman's hand, frees himself, and then he starts punching his way around. And as you mentioned, there are vibrant yellows here to kind of, I guess, highlight the I guess how volatile the fighting is, and that's kind of contrasted with him just on the deck, just beating up on the crew. A few of these things here kind of, I think, are just, I don't know, almost hilarious. There's a female member here who attacks Moon Knight, and do you see that? He grabs her leg, and then he swings it like a sack of spuds at some other people as well. He doesn't care. He's a very violent fellow. I found it interesting in that as well, that you see the spirits of the identities of Jake Lockley and Stephen Grant there when she kicks him, and actually when he gets punched as well by the other thugs, you actually see his other identities there as well, which is a pretty cool touch. But yeah, he's throwing crescent darts. He's kicking, he's breaking teeth, and that splash page with the deep reds of him, they kind of zoom in to what he's doing, and although they're kind of really close, tight shots, you can see what he's doing. Like he's kicking into joints, like kicking knees. He's dislocating elbows, and it's all quite vicious, but it's so well done. And the thing you do with having this and Moon Knight drawn in multiple areas is that you spend a lot more time. Like I spend a lot more time looking at this spread, like just following his motion and watching him take down every single thug. It's quite detailed, and it's quite a standout page, I think.
Yeah, and once again, just sort of the lovely blend of colours as well. Just the, that design of a nice full spread, and then you get the, drenched in red, the close-ups in the red, and that just contrasts so nicely with the double-page spread. And you realise Burrows just could do whatever you want. Like, the swing of the woman is absolutely ridiculous. The pushing someone overboard.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's and it culminates in, as you mentioned, Connor. He takes a couple of fingers off Bushman as well. So he has he's not going to hold back. And again, I found this kind of semi-humorous as well, because we've had Paul Bushman's face being cut off by Moon Knight, and now he's lost a couple of fingers. I wonder if gradually we see him just slowly lose limbs and appendages to Moon Knight, but he's not having a good run with Moon Knight, and I reckon you'd score the fight firmly in Moon Knight's corner, against Bushman. But yeah, he kind of Bushman is succumbed by this, I guess, act of violence as Moon Knight throws this away. And a little note here, I thought I've actually got it in the notes. What I find at the very end, so if you look, Connor, at the bottom panel, it goes, "Now, one of you, show me what's the deal with this stupid boat." I did find that kind of a bit of poor writing, if I can say, in the sense that I think Bemis had to find a purpose for Moon Knight to explore the boat, and it's kind of just summed up in that little panel there. What's the deal with this stupid boat? I mean, but really, would he be really wondering about that? I mean, for me, if I was Moon Knight and taken on board this vessel, the whole point was to go to this island to meet the Sun King, and so it would just be a ship, right? You'd just be using a ship. So
yeah.
I don't really quite buy why he's kind of interested or wants to look around the vessel. I mean, I understand why, writing point of view, but I found it to get there was a little too quick and a little too simple for me. And
you also point out another point just before that, where I talked about some of the writing just feeling, like a lot of it's good, but there's just this one line of the, I'm not one of those superheroes who won't straight up kill you, Bushman. Like, it just feels so clunky. Like, it's almost as if, like, we didn't need that line, and it's kind of just sort of a really basic line, like, hey, if you've never read Moon Knight, he kills, I guess. Like, I don't know. I feel like there was a better way to say it. Like, whether he didn't need to say it at all, or there could have been like a cool line there. It just, Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's there just to kind of define him as not your Daredevil or whatever. Like, he will kill, or he'll do stuff. He'll cut you, if he wants. The other, if we are to limit ourselves to, I guess, the four main aspects, the other big aspect to this story, to this issue, I thought was basically on the island, the Isle of Ra, and meeting the Sun King, and the Sun King setting up a ritual with Mark Spector, and that ritual being to sit in front of a fire, basically to drink up a concoction which will form some sort of psychedelic or hallucinogenic, properties onto you. And what we see here when Mark drinks it is that he and the Sun King have a meeting almost with Amon-Ra, the sun god, and Khonshu. And what this does is that actually it's basically Amon-Ra kind of justifying, he's kind of pitching where he's coming from, and how, I guess, Khonshu in general is inadequate to deal with it. And this actually caused a lot of discussion, Connor, as well, with a lot of the Loonies. So I'll just summarize it. Basically, Amon-Ra saying that, heroes who do stuff, there are a lot of repercussions to what they do, and they aren't necessarily good repercussions. They actually probably cause more problems. Also, that in order to, I guess, have a prophet or have some sort of savior, you do need to have, I guess, some sort of pain or tragedy in the world. And so this is all the stuff that Amon-Ra is kind of like really pitching for, and saying that, this is, I don't know. At one, he's questioning the role of the hero, and at the other, he's kind of justifying all the bad stuff and all the pain and suffering in the world. What did you make of this, Connor? This was quite a dense bit of I don't know, motives, like from Amon-Ra. Yeah, I really, just first of all, I love this bit. I think it was such a, ridiculously, psychedelic way of doing it. It just made it so much more interesting. And, the writing's very dense and very confusing. Like, obviously there's no right way to interpret it, but it doesn't feel clunky in the same way. It just feels dense and more interesting than, Ra going, superheroes are the bad guys after all. Yeah. And I think you very much hit the nail on the head about sort of, Ra talking about the pain of inspiring us all. And I think if I pull up the page,
the spread, yeah.
Yeah, the spread, yeah. He's him talking about, also as well that, talking about the righteousness of heroes, he very much once again just sort of points holes in the fact of this, peace through violence, this sort of, would they talking about saving killers and saving something that would cause cataclysm, and, just sort of poking the idea that what is your righteousness for when essentially all you're doing is creating, once again, more problems, but also, like, basically, as sort of what this battle of, order and chaos represents, you basically are just making it so limited and so basic in the way of stopping the true pain and inspiration that comes from there in, like, the hearts of the poets. And once again, Ra trying to prove that through chaos comes, like, beauty and all that in a way by also burning up Khonshu.
Yeah.
Which is a bit rude.
And and they've got he's got 3 really cool illustrations here, and tying it into the rest of the Marvel universe. So at the first one, he's got Galactus, and he's got Moon Knight, almost like the Herald of Galactus, kind of like a Silver Surfer there, and he talks about the cataclysmic collapse throughout the universe, where billions will die if the harmony is disrupted. So he's talking about if you save the life of an insect, an insect. What was that? Sorry, breeding ground of an insect breeding ground on a single speck of rock. Basically, you'll disrupt the greater picture. And he's got Silver Surfer there and Galactus as kind of like an example of that. The second one, we've got Days of Future Past. We have Wolverine and Kitty Pryde with the Sentinels, and the Sentinels here now are depicted almost like Moon Knights. They've got their capes and the moon crescents on their chest. And this other argument that Ra posits is that would you systematically save born killers knowing the danger they pose to society? So I guess there's that connection there to the mutants, and saving them or eliminating them, I guess. And the third one is of the Fantastic Four here. So you have all of Mark's identities speaking to Ben Grimm, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and Johnny Storm. And I guess this is about their journey into space, Connor, I think. And this is about them exploring the unknown. I guess that's a tie to the Fantastic Four. Yeah.
I love the fact that you still have Jake giving this speech in a hat and face beard, mustache.
Exactly. Well, at least they all know they've got a ride home as well, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's so anyway. So Ra, speaks of all this, and he kind of questions the role of the hero, and the greater picture. And at the end of the issue, we have Mark now kind of questioning his own beliefs and faith in Ra, and basically saying beliefs in Khonshu, and basically him admitting now that Ra may possibly be right. So we're left with the last issue with potentially Moon Knight sway to the other side, which I doubt, because there's got to be some sort of conflict at the end. But it's a nice one to end on. Did you happen to see this coming, Connor? I did not expect this at all.
No, not at all. It's a nice little twist that I'm sure probably, like the last one, will be resolved in the first few pages, as comic book cliffhangers do.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I really like that. I think the way we see Ra in the focus was good. Although I do admit that that line once again, I get its point, but it's just sort of another thing of Ra was right. Just sort of the way it's said just feels not quite as natural as you'd want it to be, but I like the cliffhanger.
Yeah. It was good. It was good. Any notes for this issue, Connor, that you can think of?
If Rebecca was here, she'd definitely point it out for us, as she pointed it out to me the first time. But the Beatrice is playing with Dazzler and Lady Hawkeye figures, which makes Marlene the best mum.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, in the
oh, cool.
Yeah, in the first pages. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't see.
And she's got a Game Boy for some reason.
Yeah, a small Game Boy. Wow. That's cool. Yeah, I well, actually, on the back of that, I do like the humour. A bit of the humour on this issue I thought worked. One of the ones in particular I thought was funny was on the speaking to the Sun King. He goes, point those guns elsewhere, friends. And Moon Knight goes, really, why? He goes, you and I both know you won't hurt me until you see Marlene breathing. And Moon Knight says, that's true. And Sun King goes, and I could just burn your flesh off. And Moon Knight goes, you didn't have to go there. So I thought that was a bit funny. Nice little quick interchange and a little quippy. So some of the humour worked here, I thought. And getting a lot more used to it. But yeah, what else have we got? Note-wise, I had Moon Knight's fighting skills. The depiction of Bushman is still very different from his old iteration, Connor, I thought. What do you think of Bushman, the way he's depicted in this issue?
I actually like him a lot more than I did at the start. I think, he's ridiculous and nothing at all like he once was, but I feel like the characterization is still strong and funny and humorous. I think, the attempt to cut his face off was, enough of, the old Bushman's still there, and I think it's a good use of comedy, if for the sake of a character that I'm pretty sure can be pretty easily, recovered. Like, Bushman being, fat and lazy in this run can easily be taken over by him getting, fit and murderous by the next creative team. Yeah. So it's like, I like it, and it's just doesn't feel cataclysmic for the character.
Okay, yeah, he certainly teeters from being scary to being quite comical for me. So yeah, it's I don't know. The jury's still out for me, I think, with this Bushman. He's certainly very different. And look, I like how he acts and interacts with the Truth and the Sun King. So it's he's a very different character. They certainly have a lot of scary moments here for him. I guess when he's cutting the side of Mark's face with his knife and licking his sharp teeth. He's not just your B-list Spider-Man villain. There's a bit more to him to that. But then you have him. Then you have him saying stuff like he and the Truth are quite comical, I think, together, because the Truth just sometimes uses his power on Bushman to make him say silly things. So when you say, and it's a great way of using the blue text as well, so you know that this is the stuff that the Truth is kind of insinuating onto you. And so when Bushman's talking to the Truth and he goes, "Oh, when Mark talks, we listen. He's all I really have in this world." And then he kind of slaps the Truth at the back of the head because he just realises, a truth's come out. It's all pretty funny. So Bushman's quite an interesting character, I think. But we'll see, I guess, down the line, past this arc, how he's depicted, but certainly very different from all the other past iterations. So, Bemis has got ideas for him, I guess.
And I wonder if Bemis will be around long enough for us to see his return.
Yeah, I do wonder how many issues they're going to give Moon Knight for this run as well. I'm hoping up into the 2024, something like that. Yeah, you never know. I don't know how sales are going as well. It might be, I don't know. Have you had a look, or do you know, Connor? If I don't know if
no, there hasn't been any news just yet. I mean, we're heading into a new era of Marvel.
Yeah,
I suppose we could have talked about that. Got announced, but everything solicitations wise seems to be, pretty positive with, still keeping with our old boy.
Okay, because I know one of the sad things was that Iron Fist, I think's wrapping up.
Oh my god!
I mean, it will probably come back again, down the track. But it's a shame that it's stopping, because it's one of the really strong runs. I think I really enjoyed that. But anyway, I guess having said that, Connor, shall we get to our Crescent Dart ratings for this?
Yes. Do you want to lead the way, good sir?
Yeah. Okay. I was having a little think about this earlier today. What I would give it. I think I'll give it a 3.5 Crescent Darts out of 5. So it was. I did find it quite enjoyable myself. There were a few flaws in it. But I thought the overall pacing was good, and I thought the voicings were good as well. There were also a couple of really, very abstract ideas, I think, from Bemis that were articulated in quite an abstract way, which kind of really, I guess it added a bit of depth to it. What we forgot to mention, Connor, was also that conversation that Mark had with the Truth just on the bow of the boat as they approached the island.
Yeah.
And I think that was quite important. It's something that it was very vague, I guess, as to what what the message was. Let me just try and find it. Basically, where are we? Okay. So basically, Mark tells the truth of a vision he has every day, and he sees lovers and dreamers, and I guess people piled up waist deep in the streets, and it has him walking through these twisted bodies, utterly powerless. And it's not because he wants to save them, but it's he has a fear, and what motivates him is not to save these lives, but it is that his fear is that his sanity is built on a lie. And it ends with him saying, "My hope for a better world is my most tragic form of dissociation." And the way I took that was that basically his mercenary, I think he's got a lot of guilt from his mercenary days still, and he's been trying to justify that by doing heroic deeds, by becoming a superhero. But I still don't think it sits well with him. I think that's basically what I get from it. Is that how you interpret it as well?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's sort of, I think he almost fears a hypocrisy in what he does, and his,
yeah, that's well put.
Yeah, just as you said, his almost quest for righteousness is still drowned by both a violent past and the violence of his, of like what's happening now. And, Ra even attacks on this later when he talks about, Beatrice being raised in that generation. And, it's his fear of not just the people, but it's the lovers and dreamers, just sort of the death from his own violence, which, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Well put.
Yeah, I think you summed it up there, but it just kind of goes, this is one of the examples, I think it goes to show with Bemis's writing that he really does add a density to it, that around these ideas, which, are simple enough. And I found that with the Amon-Ra description and his justification to Mark Spector as well. It was, I don't want to say verbose, but maybe it was a bit too much overriding for simple ideas. And so, apart from those kind of instances as well, I enjoyed the flow of the issue, and that's why I kind of gave it 3.5. I would give it more. If there were, I don't know, just the little things there, like Frenchie's accent, and these ideas that he springs into the issue. I don't know, maybe if it could be written, I don't know, in a different way, but that's just me. How about you?
I 100% agree with you. I'd give it 3.5. I think good pacing, good ideas, great art, great colours, good writing that's let down by some clunky lines. It just, everything happening in this is I really enjoy, and how psychedelic it got, but there's just moments of writing, and I think even just the pacing in general, that just lets this issue down from truly reaching its greatness. So yeah, not as strong as others, but I still very much enjoyed it, so 3.5 does it well for me. A run that's been sort of, 4 and 4.5.
Yeah, I mean, the 3.5 is a pretty good score as well. And as we both mentioned, we're both eager to see how it pans out in the next issue. So we'll be checking that out for sure. Before we move on, Connor, as well, we have a fair bit of feedback on our Facebook page, Facebook group. We put, as we usually do with the new issues, we put a spoiler thread in there, and you can just post your comments there of what you thought of the issue. So we got a variety of comments here. Shall we go through them?
I think that sounds like a lovely idea.
Okay, well I'll hit the first one with Midkine Hitsuzun, and he was the first off the cab off the ranks, and he says, totally out of character for Bushman to apologise. Goodness, how soft have you turned, Raoul? So he's just talking about, I guess there is that panel there where Bushman does apologise. He goes, I know, I'm sorry. And yeah, a little bit out of character, I think, as well, for someone so cutthroat and someone so, let's face it, so diabolical. But yeah, we'll point that out there, Mid-Ken.
And then following up from that, we have Bobby of Moon Knight Court. Check it out, dropping some fire memes on us.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he would have posted that great one and pointing out the Sun King's tropical look and attitude in this issue.
Yep. Yeah. There is a bit of talk, I guess, about Sun King. He does look... Again, there's a bit comical because he's on this tropical island, so he's got, he's got your 3/4 board shorts on, he's got your sunnies, and he's got your open shirt. Yeah, it's and that for a main villain is, I don't know, it just kind of throws you. Midkin actually responds to this by saying, yeah, he looks like he's going to star in a CSI episode. Definitely made an impression there. The Sun King. Look, I'm just going to skip a bit further down. Won't go too much into the discussions. That's just a bit of fun banter. Midkin as well goes, also Bushman, good job on getting something other than your face cut off. So that's look, we got someone here. Actually, you got our guest narrator, Corey Hardiman here.
And dropping the first hot take.
Yeah, Corey's great because he, it's obviously, it's true what he writes in. And so he wasn't too happy with the issue, and he said, I hate saying this, but I'm ready for this run to be over and a new team to take the reins. I love the cover, even though it has nothing to do with the story, except for maybe symbolically. I also love the splash page, but that's where my positives end. The transition between scenes was really disjointed. I also don't think the colouring does it any justice, not enough shading. Kind of reminds me of comics from the 80s in that regard. It was fine then, but nowadays I think a colourist should be capable of much more. Sorry for sounding like a hater. I'd much rather be excited over how much I love the book, but I'd be lying. I'm happy for those that do get full enjoyment out of it, though. I'm hoping the finale to this storyline in the next issue is great. Thank you so much, Corey, for that as well. And I can see where you're coming from with the colours. It is a different sort of colouring, isn't it, Connor? It is a lot flatter in that regard. If you imagine it to even say the Houston and the Finch run, where ones that we've reviewed recently, which is there's a lot more tone to it, a lot more dark and shade, and the colours are, kind of bleed into each other. This one, you very much get contrasting palette. Look, I put that down to Matt Lopez's style, I guess. That and maybe collaboration with Jacen Burrows. Not everyone's cup of tea, but it's a certain style.
It's just always subjective because I really enjoy the colours here, but it's just, in every way this run sort of tries to cut away from the norm. Yeah. Which, doesn't always work for everyone, or doesn't always work in and of itself when you try.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. How about there's a few messages there that I've posted up there, Connor. how about dropping down to Adam, our good mate Adam?
Good mate Adam. Big fan of Adam.
Yeah.
Big fan of all our Loonies, but I guess you could say he's the prime. I just really wanted to make that joke. Anyway, Adam says, I thought the scene between Bra and Khonshu was cool, but is a little played out nowadays. Very fair. Mm-hmm. The most valid point a villain can ever make is that what he's doing for the betterment of all humanity instead of a select few is the fact that neglect and tragedy, shaped through prophets and saviors, a valid reason to fight against evil. Is it righteousness to save born killers knowing the danger they pose to society? On a galactic scale, would you save the world if it would trigger cataclysmic collapse throughout the universe? It's a cool conundrum for a hero, but it seems pretty cliche at this point, which I agree, which I think is probably why, we sort of got this why it sort of stuck out so much when there was this very sort of flamboyant writing style and very dense, just because I suppose that, helps try to cut it away from, what is very much a played out storyline.
For sure. And I think, Adam has really cut to the core here with all those, that last thing as well. Would you say, so is alluding to that Galactus, Moon Knight / Silver Surfer image of, would you save the world if it would trigger cataclysmic collapse throughout the universe? And I do think this idea is a bit cliched and a bit, a bit overused. But exactly. And I think the way that Bemis has worded it, he's padded out a very common kind of trope, if I can use Chris's word, for the villains. And so I wasn't totally convinced that, Mark would be swayed by this. Because it's an argument that, that we've heard all before as well. So good point there, Adam. I really enjoyed that.
He also adds you want to go with that one?
Oh, no, just his little, the boat scene was incredible. Yeah. It certainly was. I think Connor and I both agreed as well. It was, again, I can't not use the word cinematic. It was quite cinematic, and I understand. I remember Bemis saying in one of the early articles that his run will be quite cinematic, and I can see it. You can almost imagine the rocking of the boat in those waves, and then Moon Knight taking on all those thugs. It was really cool. Look, I'll just also continue here. Just another small comment here from Raphael. And he says, I don't know if it's just me, but always I see the Sun King, even if he looks and acts okay, something inside of me keeps saying, run the F away out of there. I think he's my newest fear. And, I can see where you're coming from, Raphael, as well. It's because he seems so self-assured and so humble, and, he doesn't seem like a villain at all. And it's those sorts of people that you got to worry about the most.
Yeah, I totally agree, Raphael, and it's totally been my favourite thing about this character ever since that first issue of this sort of, and the second as well was really great with Sean, that just so charismatic but so diabolical and evil, and just how quickly he switches from one to the next just makes him such a brilliant character in my eyes.
Yeah, and the fact that he's quite powerful as well, so there's that tension of you just don't know whether he's going to, burn you to a crisp. He can just do that with a flick of a switch. So, very scary indeed. Connor, I'm gonna give you the big one from Frank.
Let's do this. All right. Just scroll past it. Frank says, well, I must say, before I read the issue, I read 2 comments on here, and I saw stuff like, can't wait for this run to be over. Initially thought people are being too harsh, I'm sure it's good. And then he drops 4 disappointed face emojis. Heartbreaking turn so quickly.
No.
By the end of the first page, I was drained of my energy. 1. Frenchie's accent just up and went away. It seemed more like a soap opera scene where people stand on their mask and recite lines, instead of a fluid convo, hard to explain. The art felt flat. Someone said something about needing more shadowing. I agree. Need to put a footnote telling readers to read another writer's run. Really? That box extracted me from the little bit I was engaged all the way out of the story and made it feel more like a chore than a pleasure. Another thing, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Mark going to the island anyway? Wasn't that the purpose of having Frenchie babysit? And what was the point of having a bunch of goons coming to force Mark to ride the boat there? And at what point in history of Moon Knight would he sit down and listen to the likes of those thugs? And how is Bushman punking the truth when Bushman's a little punk himself? Called out. Then he allows to tie him up in a boat. I agree with another Loony. Bushman wouldn't have apologized. And where did MK get those crescent darts? Actually, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me they tied him up and didn't take his weapons? Could have pulled out a crescent dart and cut the ropes at any moment. I did enjoy the double-page action on the boat with the red panel showing details on the encounters from the background. A nice touch. Then Bushman says, you don't scare me, Spectre. After just an issue or 2 ago, he said, Moon Knight scares the crap out of me. Question marks all around.
Yeah.
I did like the cutting of the fingers off, and MK saying you can't replace those, but they'll never be yours again. Next time I won't be satisfied with a piece of you. But then the next bubble was worded weird. Yeah. I'm not one of those superheroes who doesn't straight up kill you, Bushman. Seems like a double negative. Definitely agree that was probably the clunkiest bit of that scene. And then your point, why does he ask to deal with the boat? What would make him think there was a deal other than to get him to the island?
Mm-hmm.
And MK's torture style is saying that is one of the most underrated names ever. Was he trying to relate to the kid or insult him? I definitely just see Bemis as a rocker. I bet he's met a few Byrons out there partying.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he just loves the name.
Yeah.
The whole convo was creepy and awkward in my opinion. Then the heart-to-heart with the truth. And whereas Bushman during all this, off licking his wounds, it is dark when they are within range of the island. Then all of a sudden it is midday, sun high in the sky. The whole convo with the sun god was weird. Only part I liked was we fight to the death tomorrow. And that's all I will comment on. There are a few good parts, but it seems very disconnected and a lot doesn't add up or make any sense. The characters are not the way they are known to be. It's borderline annoying. Just my thoughts of it.
Yes, and thank you, Frank. Who I shall dub the Punisher, I told him, because he's got a cool first name. Frank, with these the hot takes here, very cool. And look, and I've commented as well, responded to him as well, and look, all valid because, you know, we like to respect everyone's comments, and people read and enjoy comics in different ways. But yeah, look, I started responding to a lot of the points here as well. Much of them I agreed as well. But let's just quickly go through this, Connor. So just the quick fire points. Number one, Frenchie's accent just up and went away. We've discussed that as well. Look, I thought it was a bit weird that it wasn't there. You thought that you kind of wanted it there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, like I don't mind it being taken away, but you know.
Yeah, I didn't mind too much, but it did.
For consistency.
Exactly, but it did kind of, I did put my ears up for that. It seemed like, number two, it seemed like a soap opera scene where the people stand on the mark and recite lines. I think this probably alludes kind of to what you mentioned about the writing being a little clunky. I certainly didn't pick it up when I read it, but I can see that's where Frank is coming from, so I understand that. The art felt flat. It needed more shadowing, and I think we talked about this as well. I guess it's all very subjective, and how you like your colouring and your shading as well. But this is very much depicted in a more of a matte, to me, more of a matte thing. The devil's in the details, I think, as well. So if you do look at a lot of Burrows' stuff, a lot of close-ups, he does chuck in a lot of details on the figures themselves. It just depends on what you like, I guess. About the footnote, I responded to the Punisher here. I told him, I thought it was actually quite good. I like the it's a hark to the past, you know, with the old editor's notes, and I actually kind of really enjoyed it, having that little one there. Too. Yeah, but again, very subjective. So. So another thing, I found this, really troublesome, and I totally agree with Frank as well. It's just one of those instances of a pure coincidence. So Moon Knight was going to go to the island, and, you know, he probably had no idea how he was going to get there or what he was going to do. But fortuitously enough, Bushman comes up and they take him basically to the island. So it was very convenient, I think. And that kind of irked me as well, Frank. I thought that was a bit too neat, I think. The next one about Moon Knight sitting down. Look, he might have just been sitting down to see how it plays out. He probably knows well that he can take down the whole room of thugs himself. So he's probably doing a Black Widow and probably just, you know, trying to see how things pan out. That's how I took it. And the same with him being tied up to the boat as well. Did you think that, Connor, as well? I thought that he's just playing along.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
so, you're right. Totally, a very classic, you know, spy Black Widow, top of their game. They're not going to be kicked down by this.
Because, he had a plan. Well, he easily got out of the ropes anyway. So he, you know, I think being tied to the mast was nothing for him. Another one, Bushman shouldn't have apologised. I thought that was a little out of character, but as we mentioned, Bemis is treating Bushman a little differently. The crescent darts, that's true as well. Look, that would be in his belt, and absolutely. I don't know why they wouldn't have taken them off him. They certainly would have taken his truncheon. So, yep, that's a good point spotted out there. Double page spread. Yep. Bushman says, yeah, I thought maybe this is a bit of bravado. So when Bushman says you don't scare me, Spectre, and he earlier admitted that he was scared, I think it's just him putting on a face, no pun intended, to Mark. So, yeah, but I mean, again, good call, Mark. Sorry, not Mark, good call, Frank. All these double negatives, it's, a bit of clunky writing there, totally agree as well. And why does he ask about the boat? Absolutely. I found that so weird and such a dodgy excuse to look around the boats. The little kid, Byron, could be either or, I think. You know, who knows with Mark. He could be insulting the kid or he could be trying to relate to him. I don't know. And interesting enough, Bushman licking his wounds as Mark talks to the truth. Yeah, you'd think that Bushman would be pretty pissed off at Mark and any chance to try and cut his fingers off or something. But no, he's maybe he's on the toilet. Who knows? And the other one is, a bit of timing issue. Dark at night. Maybe they all slept on it. Much like what's his name? Jack Norris and the Zodiac, after a hard day's rocking, I'm just going to bed. So, And, so that's basically about it, It was, and the whole conversation between the sun god, it was a bit strange. I agree with you, Frank, and was a bit too wordy for what the message was, I thought. But thank you for those points. Just a couple of other ones. Now we got one from Josh as well, a big Moon Knight fan. And Josh says, pretty good issue. I'd give it 3. He said, I'd give it 3.5 present darts. Hey, same. Cover is amazing, even though nothing of the sort happens. The entire boat scene was awesome. The splash page of Moon Knight taking out every individual enemy was one of the best comic pages I've ever seen. Whoa. That's a big call there, Josh, but I'm with you. I also liked how the truth made Bushman reveal his true feelings about Mark, before slapping him on the back of the head. Very funny moment. I think the humour was pretty funny throughout this issue. I also loved how in the Ra's monologue to Khonshu they showed the Moon Knight as Silver Surfer, Sentinels, and the personas as scientists teaching the Fantastic Four. Absolutely, Josh. I think that was a nice excuse to tie it into other Marvel characters because, let's face it, Moon Knight in this whole run as well has been quite ostracised from the rest of the Marvel Universe. So, very good visual representation of Ra's words. Totally agree with that. Similar thoughts, Connor?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, pretty cool. And there's one there, Connor, you want to grab that one from...
Just sort of 2 quick ones. Lewis just being a bit confused over the zombie thing, as we all were. So, again, how that works into the writing, sort of up to you guys.
So what did we come to, Connor? What do you reckon? Do you reckon... So you're still thinking Frenchie was there, right?
Yeah. Okay. I still very much think Frenchie was there, but if he wasn't, once again, I'll admit my feelings.
Just for the sake of it, I'll go against and I'll say, I'll change my mind and I reckon Frenchie wasn't there at all. But it'll be interesting to see next issue. What happens? Does Frenchie fly in, later on to save Mark? Who knows?
Oh, maybe,
Maybe. And finally, Vaughn. Sorry?
Oh, no, go on.
No, sorry, actually, this is just a small message here from Vaughn, mentioning, got my copy, couldn't wait, now I can't wait to see what happens next. So, absolutely, I think we're all on that same page as well. So thank you so much, Loonies, for all that feedback. That was really good. It was certainly an interesting issue to read through. Always fun with the latest issues. I do love doing the classic runs and the modern runs, but whenever a new issue comes out, it is very exciting indeed. So having said that, Connor, next phase.
As we said, we are hitting the big number 2 of the Damnation event.
Yeah.
Damnation issue 2 as part of the podcast crossover with Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast, Defenders TV podcast, and Sons of the Dragon and Immortal Iron Fist podcast. And we will have, of course, the big man of himself, possibly.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. It's Tommy. It's Tommy once again.
Yes.
Big shout out to him and all the Loonies. We've had some Loonies on the pod doing the bare bones. We created Ray created this group before it even became a podcast to, just celebrate Moon Knight and talk about fans, so it's just not us talking about him, and created such a great community, and we can't wait to hear from all of you. So bare bones will be great to have Tommy on. It's all just great. Keep it all coming in.
Oh yeah, can't wait to have Tommy on board. It'll be quite exciting, and Damnation too. So it's it's not a Moon Knight title, but hopefully there'll be enough Moon Knight in there for the three of us to discuss. Looking forward to it, and getting Tommy's thoughts on that as well. For Spectacle, and as Connor mentioned as well, we've had Loonies on before, and this episode we had Corey Hardiman on from Nova Scotia in Canada, and want to give him a massive shout out. Thank you so much, Corey, for turning around such a quick recording for us for the Bare Bones. Corey is the creator of Sister Mercy. It started out as a comic, and unfortunately he lost his artist, so he's turning it into a novel as we speak, and once the novel is completed, he hopes to maybe eventually turn that into a graphic novel. So that can be found. You can find the comic, the 10 pages, at Whitefire Comics. So just go to whitefirecomics.com. Sister Mercy also has a Facebook page as well. So if you just if you look up Sister Mercy on Facebook, I'm sure you'll find it. We'll put up the links to both of these in our show notes. And just to cap it off as well, Corey has given us a summary, a blurb on Sister Mercy. So, Sister Mercy is best described as Joan of Arc meets The Walking Dead with mutants instead of zombies. It takes place generations after the end of civilization, deep in a post-apocalyptic world, with the planet itself in its death throes. What few survivors remain have long ago lost sight of the line between right and wrong, doing whatever they can to see another day at any cost. Mercy is the last good person in the world, and she's on a mission, guided by what is either the voice of God or her own schizophrenia. And Corey actually mentions here, how close the similarities are with Moon Knight as well as Joan of Arc. She must face swarms of mutants, depraved survivors, and more in an effort to reach her nemesis, the Black Pope, Petrus Romanus. But what she does not know is that he's been waiting for her, and everything is going exactly as he's planned it. So it sounds very cool indeed. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to give it a go, and hopefully we can see the final iteration on Amazon of the novel as well. So it sounds pretty cool. I do like my my Walking Dead and post-apocalyptic stuff. Connor, what do you reckon?
I'll definitely be diving in. I'm not sure whether I want to hit that comic first or wait for the full novel to drop.
Yeah, that's
true.
I'm
all about supporting upcoming creators. It's the best thing you can do. So, by all means, keep an eye on it or check it out now.
Absolutely. All right, well, we are nearly done for this episode. Just a couple of final bits of housekeeping here. Connor, we also are part of the collective.
Yes. If you would like to find us or have seen us before, on our Into the Night podcast at wordpress.com, we have a little tab called The Collective, and The Collective started just before I had my little disappearance from the pod. It is a group of like-minded podcast individuals, just sort of creating a bit of a network to get us all together, all supporting one another as we grow. By chances, you've probably listened to some of these podcasts. We've had people from this podcast on. We're crossing over with some of them now. It is, we have Attilan Rising, Capes and Lunatic, Defenders TV Podcast, The Fantastic Cast, Geek Street Podcast, I am your target demographic, Inner Demons, Mixed Marvel Arts, the Namor Podcast, Signal of Doom, Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast, Uncanny Nerdverse, and We Have a Hulk. All for your pleasure once again at intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com/the-collective for all of them in one concise little spot for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, they are all very, very cool podcasts. I've listened to at least one episode from all of them. They're really cool, really a great bunch of people. So, please, if you do love your podcasts, help support the podcast community and check those guys out as well. As for where you can find us, as per usual, we are on email at moonknightpodcast@gmail.com. We have the website intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. We're also on Facebook. Our page is facebook.com/ITKMoonKnight, and our group, Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/intothennight. We're also on Twitter at ITKMoonKnight, as well as on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Just search for Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. We should be on all... most of the podcast catches out there, so just find us through there. If not, on our Libsyn page, which is... let me just quickly put that up as well. I'll put that in the show notes as well, so don't worry about that. But, I'll chuck it in the notes as well. But we have a Libsyn podcast page as well, so that shows all the podcast episodes, as well as our Over the Moon newsletters as well, so you can just download any of them. That's once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Connor, again, so glad to have you back. It's been just like, what's the term? Slipping on a glove? Or back to it's great. It's cool. Hopefully we'll have some good issues next coming week, and just keep your ears out for the other podcasts which we're doing our Damnation crossover with as well. We are the next ones up with Damnation 2, but Defenders TV podcast, Inner Demons, and Sons of the Dragon. With that, Connor, any last things you want to mention?
No. Just good to be back. Can't wait for next week. Love and Damnation. We'll probably put up even our own spoiler thread in the Into the Night fan base group for us to have a chat about, so we can do the same
good idea
as we did for this issue next week.
Yeah, excellent. Okay then, well, thank you so much, and as we always say, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.